I don't hydrate like everyone else, because I'm not everyone else. They drink what they're told to drink. I drink what helps me rehydrate and recover. Pedialyte Sport, because it works. And so do I. Pedialyte Sport. Hydration beyond the hype.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Under the 3-week mark until the start of the NBA season, it's Wednesday, September the 29th. 20 days away from that first ball game. Little orange ball floats up in the sky, and we start staring at our rosters every second for almost six straight months. Our families will hate us. Our pocketbooks will hopefully enjoy us. And I don't know what you guys do. I have sort of like a fantasy fund that gets siphoned off to the side so that if I want to go do something silly, like buy a children's video game for quote-unquote my kid to play, but of course, you know, I'm going to play it. I can do that. That's the way it works, man. That's found money. So let's keep finding money. Welcome to the show, everyone. Happy Wednesday. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a hoop ball presentation. I'm your host, Dan Bespris. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespris. I would certainly ask that you would if you're relatively new to the proceedings. I'm going to be doing a lot on Twitter this year. It was sort of I don't want to call it a resolution. That's kind of a trivial resolution to have. Do more on Twitter. But it's about making sure that I'm kind of still doing what I did to get to this point. It's easy to sit back and relax and just do your pod and take care of your business, but I want to make sure that we're out there. So more questions, more tweet storms, more thoughts in the free space, along with this podcast. They'll kind of run in conjunction. Again, that's Dan Bespris on Twitter, or just search for Dan from Hoopball on whatever search engine, and the Twitter feed will generally pop up there. It's DANBESBRIS. Hoopball, which you need to be following their Twitter feed, is at Hoopball Fantasy. Go check that out immediately. And the most important promo we're going to do on this show for at least 10 days, the Brewski 150. It is out. It is available to Hoopball 360 subscribers today. How exciting is that? I got an opportunity to check it out. Got my heart all aflutter. You can go to hoop-ball.com. Get the Hoopball 360 plan. It is the only place to get Brewski 150 access right now. It also includes the full season of fantasy subscription, the full season of DFS, and a full season of our Wager Pass. So if you get that, you should definitely get involved over on the sports betting side. Again, I know you guys want me to dive in fast, but come on. Brewski 150 release date, that's gotta be a first part promo on the show. Come on. You know it. Hoop-ball.com. Hoopball 360. Brewski 150. Go read it now. Said it before, I'll say it again. I love this damn time of year. This is where we get to actually talk to other living human beings on the podcast and get real, legitimate thoughts that are not just me talking to myself and going slightly insane. It's also the time of year where we break down the mock draft, the Dan's annual 9-cat Roto mock, and I'm really, really excited. I don't remember if we did this last year or the year before. I think we might have missed last year because, you know, like there was an 8-second off season. But welcome back to the show, Matt Stroup. How you been, man?
Hey, good. Yeah, good. I was just thinking to myself, did we do this last year? And it's a little scary that neither of us knows, but let's just say we didn't so we have some sense of confidence there. We did not.
We agree in our confusion. I don't know. I don't remember much of anything the last 18, 19 months. Do you?
No. I was going to expand that. I thought I'm going to say 8 to 9 years, I think.
Well, how old are your kids?
Yeah, 8 in my oldest age.
I was going to say.
That's the moment.
Yeah, my oldest is almost 5, so I don't remember anything for 5. You've got me beat
nothing.
there by nothing. It's just
maybe 12 to 18 hours ago, I might be useful. People ask me what I did over the weekend on Monday. I'm like, I do not know, and it will not come to me.
No,
So,
there's no point in stopping to think about it because it's not coming back.
Exactly.
And Matt is, and I'm going to get this right, I slowed down to make sure I didn't call it by the old name, is with NBC Sports Edge. See how I did that?
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. That is, I didn't screw it up this time, but at some point in the middle of the show, I'm going to like re-promo it, and that's probably when I'm going to screw it up, when I'm thinking about something else, and I got the next thing on the docket. Those of you, I can do this, right? Those of you listening to the show, you likely know it as, for a long time, Roto World, and of course, NBC Sports Edge. Now, Matt, you've been there for, crap, I think I was reading your stuff long before I even got into this thing. So this is really fun for me, and like 2 years ago, we did a hit where we agreed on everything, and I made a pact with myself this year that I was going to pick one player on each analyst's team, and I was going to grill them. And I don't know, maybe I'm serious, maybe I'm not. I'm just a little more devil's advocate. So what we're going to do now on today's show, we're going to go through Matt's team from the 9-Cat Roto Mock. You can give us some thoughts on individual players. We'll probably focus more on some than others. Some are sort of like the, oh yeah, that one makes a lot of sense, let's keep going type of play. And then at the end, that's when I'll bug you for some of your favorite late targets, if there weren't guys that you already put on your team. You ready to rock?
I'm ready.
Yeah, I know you are. You're a seasoned podcaster. Listen to the sound of him, man. It sounds like he's sitting right next to me, but I assure you he's not. And if he was, I'd be very uncomfortable because I haven't been near any.
Yeah, I'm actually in your house, Dan. I've been meaning to reveal this to you.
That's
I'm
fine.
In your house right now.
As long as you're like 2 rooms over, which is good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in that front sitting room.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, I mean the whole house, the whole apartment. My whole apartment is just one large sitting room at this point. Are you in the kids' room? Because that'd be a little weird.
Oh, this doesn't look like a kid's room. It's mostly like older books and stuff, and there's a globe in here. Like it's very like ornate, sophisticated looking kind of parlor type.
Okay,
room.
You might be in the neighbor's house instead of my. Yeah,
okay.
Look for like look for PJ Masks paraphernalia just like scattered all over the floor, and then you'll know. Then you'll know you're in the right spot.
All right, I'll let you know when I find it.
So Matt had the first, or the 8th overall pick in the first round, I should say, and you ended up with Giannis at 8, which was interesting. I'm not a massive Giannis fan in 9-Cat Roto. I also don't know that I've seen him fall to 8 in any other draft I've done. So talk me through this one. I feel like this is probably a spot where you were like, I'm not ready for this dude to be here. Should I continue to let him go, or should I take him here? You ended up at him, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, very, very accurate. I think both things you said are things that I agree with. Like I'm not going to every draft thinking, man, if I can just engineer a way to get Giannis on my team, I'll be happy. But I also, if I'm sitting there at 8 and he's there, I think I'm going to take him. Now, I will say the Roto factor. Yeah, like if we were playing this league out, that would probably haunt me, the free throw percentage. And I did draft kind of a number of questionable free throw shooters on this roster, as we'll find out. But I mean, I don't know. At some point, like, I guess I could have double checking, like, was Bradley Beal still there? I probably could have taken Beal, like, or Tatum. I think I just talked myself into Giannis because of just, the advantage in multiple categories, all the rebounds, the steals, the blocks, the assists. Like, we know what Giannis does, right? He's awesome. Other than the free throw percentage, what's not to like? In a Roto league, that's a little bit of an issue if you're kind of pseudo punting free throws. But otherwise, you got to love Med 8. And in a head-to-head league, you would have to love getting Med 8, I think.
Yeah, and head-to-head, you can create that build in a way, like you never, at 8, you're not expecting to get a guy where you can lean into that kind of build in head-to-head. In Roto, I do think if you play it right, you can punt one category in Roto in a way where in head-to-head you can kind of like punt a position more. In Roto, you can't really get away with, 2 or 3 categories, but luckily Giannis is awesome at basically everything else, minus 3-pointers. So you can kind of get away with it. And like you said, there are a couple other questionable free throw shooters here that we can talk about how that kind of rolls into the overall build. I really like, by the way, that was probably the extent of what a Dan Vesper's grill session is like. So,
oh wow, okay.
I know it's.
Okay.
I'm no Jim
stressful.
Gray over here. Your second round pick at 17 was Vooch, who I think
Yes.
has taken a lot of heat this year, but I think it's worth pointing out to folks, and I might have said on this show that he's going to take a little bit of a hit this season. He's not going to be what he was in Orlando when he was sort of unchallenged as that main guy, but it's also worth noting that he was number 4 by totals last year in 9 category leagues. So even a drop-off, there's still a pretty good amount of wiggle room. And when you look at what you got out of your first-round pick, you now have a team that's extraordinarily well-rounded with maybe the exception of 3-pointers. But even Vooch hits, 1 and change of those. I like him mid to late second round. This one makes a lot of sense to me. Am I missing anything there?
You're not. And if you listen to my podcast, Roundball Stew, just if you like combed through it at 2.5 times speed, you would hear the name Vucevic a lot. I am absolutely fascinated with this guy in fantasy. I feel like he is almost every year there's some reason that he gets dinged in terms of where he goes in the draft, right? I mean, this year I sense that he's actually going a little higher than in recent years. I would have to double check that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay. Yeah. So it's funny, though, because I do think that at the same time, there's a sense of, oh, well, Chicago has added these guys. They've got DeRozan now. They've got Lonzo Ball. They've got Levine. Vooch is going to, take a hit. It's going to be different than it was in Orlando. Maybe it will, but I still think he's close to at worst, like a 20 and 10 guy who's going to get assists. I mean, they're going to run offense through him, right? He gets, nearly a steal and a block per game. He hits threes, good percentages, low turnovers. I mean, what is not to love, especially in a Roto league and head-to-head league, frankly, about this guy? I'll take him in the second round of any league, Roto, head-to-head. Please give me all the Vooch on all my rosters, and I'll be a happy person.
Yeah, it's funny too. That same idea you were talking about there, where even if there is an ever so slight downturn for him, it almost doesn't matter. But you're also right that for whatever reason, this was the year that he did start to go a little earlier. Last season, he was going like near 30 when he was basically unchallenged for a lead dog role in Orlando, and he just smoked that, both on a per game and then even more so by totals because he was frightfully durable last season. I get the feeling that, Chicago's a team that feels like they need to prove something this year. So this feels like the kind of season where a lot of those guys are going to play through little nagging wrist injuries or nagging ankle injuries or whatever it is because they want to win some games. They want to actually make the playoffs for the first time in, I don't know, it's probably more recent than it feels like for Bulls folks. But other than catastrophic injury, which you sort of can't really handicap for, it feels like the story for the Bulls is that those guys are going to probably try to play as many games as possible this year. Yeah.
Yeah. 2016-17 was the last.
Oh, thank you. So that's a decent amount of time back.
We've talked about we can't remember 12 to 18 hours ago. Think what an eternity 5 years is.
I think I do a better job of remembering 2017 than 12 to 18 hours ago, though.
Right. Yeah. Fair point. But I mean, sure. And I mean, I don't know. Like, are we that worried about DeRozan and Lonzo Ball crushing Vooch's value? I mean, DeRozan was a facilitator last year as much as he was a scorer in San Antonio. I mean, 7 assists per game in San Antonio last year. Lonzo Ball is a great passer. So I don't know. Are we that worried? Again, if the guy drops to like 19 and 11 versus like 22 and 11 or whatever it was, I'm not that upset about it.
It's not impacting. Okay. It's not impacting the other stuff either. Like you said, the rebounds, that's where they are. There's not like there's another big man coming to get the boards in Chicago.
Right.
Patrick Williams, isn't he the starting power forward out there? Most likely.
Yeah, I think he's got a injury, right? I think Patrick Williams is now hurt.
Yeah, but he's so I mean, assuming that when they get their bodies back, that's not about to cut into it. Like you said, the assists, they're probably not going very far. So yeah, even if there is a small thing, he had more than enough wiggle room against that last season with those ridiculously gaudy finishes. Your third round pick is one of the free throw guys you were talking about, Christian Wood at 32. Although, his last season, he's one that I really legitimately can't figure out. Because last season, I know there was the ankle thing, but an ankle injury coming back from that, it shouldn't ruin your free throw stroke completely, but he became basically a punt free throw guy after the injury. Which Christian Wood do we get this year? If you didn't have Giannis, is this someone you would have let go a little farther? how did you end up settling on Wood at 32?
This was a little bit, as you said, at 32. I'm just looking at how the draft played out. I would have absolutely loved to have gotten LaMelo Ball, for example. My colleague, Dr. A from NBC Sports Edge, took him 27th. I vehemently dislike him for that. And
well, Doc was going team fun at this point, by the way. So he wasn't.
Yeah. And so partially, he loves Christian Wood. So partially I was like, all right, that's how it's going to be. I'm going to take Christian Wood. Now, with that said, I'm also around that time, the three guys that go directly after I take him are all guys I thought long and hard about. Chris Paul, LeBron James, Drew Holiday. I'm thinking about all three of those guys, all three 30-somethings, all with question marks, right? Drew Holiday coming off the NBA Finals run, the Olympics. LeBron missed a bunch of games. Chris Paul, I think, had wrist surgery, but whatever. Deep playoff run plus wrist surgery plus age 36. So to me, it's just like, what am I doing here? Let me just take the super fun, dynamic big guy who, aside from free throws, again, it's another like what's not to love situation here. I mean, he's almost got Vooch's stat line minus the assists and minus the free throw shooting. So it's just a lot of fun if he can stay healthy. The ankle was a big issue though. So I don't know. Will I end up with Christian Wood in a lot of leagues? I think I could if I'm in that early 30s spot and, I'm looking at like a 36-year-old or him. I think I'm taking Christian Wood.
If you had taken Cat, if he had fallen to you in the first round and you had ended up with Cat, Vooch, and Wood, that really to me is like the weird evolution progression of three players, where it's like Vooch is the poor man's Cat and Wood is the poor man's Vooch, and you built them all.
Interesting.
Not quite. Not quite. Cat was off by one in the first round. Matt Smith got him right before you. Yeah, I mean, on the Wood side, I have almost no opinion on him, and so that makes me a little bit afraid. If his free throw stroke comes back, he was incredible early last season. I think he was top 25 before the ankle thing, and then he was like borderline unusable when he came back. So it's a very weird, and that wide spread just made me so nervous. But yeah, right. I mean, to your point, like Chris Paul, that was me after you. I had no intention of drafting Chris Paul in this mock, and then he just kept falling and falling and falling, and it was sort of that same moment you had with Giannis where I was like, well, I've had him the last 2 years, and he's been basically my favorite pick the last 2 years. I thought he would go 8 to 10 slots earlier this season, and he just hasn't been, and then I ended up with him again. Coming back in the fourth, you got Clint Capela. Dude, you have the biggest team on planet Earth at this point, although I have to say I love Capela at 41. If he stays mostly healthy, he just obliterates this number.
41 is where I was getting Capela in a number of leagues last year. I am a extremely passionate, loyal Hawks fan, so that bakes into it. But I mean, yeah, again, I do have some some well-documented free throw issues by this point in a Roto league, right? I've got Giannis, Christian Wood, and Clint Capela with 3 of my first 4 picks. Vooch is however many free throws per game. 2 attempts per game at 84% is not going to save this squad at this point, right? So I'm borderline punting free throw percentage in this fictional Roto league, but man, I just actually hit the punt. If you ever mess around on Basketball Monster with their player rankings and just punt the free throws, Capela on a per game basis was the number 4 player last year if you punt free throws.
Yep.
He's good. It turns out he's useful. 15 points, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks. I mean, he was a monster.
Great. He was great last year. 23, I think, on a per game basis. I mean, like, yeah. And he was going in the 60 range last season. And again, this is like, it seems like the universe just sort of split the difference. People were like, well, he's probably not going to get all the way where he was, so let's just draft him exactly halfway in between where he was drafted last year and where he ended up last year. And
3 years in a row, I can't figure this out with certain players. It's a mystery to me why they perennially go later than they should. And Capela is another guy who that seems to happen. It's 3 years in a row in the top 25 for him of 9 category leagues. And you can almost always get him outside the top 25.
Yeah, every time. You're right. Well, at this point, you leaned into it, by the way, a little bit. Your 5th rounder, you decided to now finally get a guard, and actually his free throw stroke got better, so that's not fair. Lonzo shot the ball much better at the foul line last year, but you never know. It could disappear again. And so it makes a lot of sense, really. This is where he's generally going. This feels like a relatively safe pick in the 5th round. I don't have any brilliant analysis on it. It just seems like you really did need to get a guard, and you got one that fit your build here.
Yeah, and I mean, I like to try to keep it when I can, try to keep it spicy, like take someone who I don't want to take. We'll get to lack of upside in a minute with one of my picks, but generally speaking, I want to take guys who, I mean, I guess Vooch, we've already seen his ceiling, right? So I'm not totally holding true to that, but like Lonzo is a great combination of floor and ceiling, I think is what I'm trying to say, where we may not have seen his best season yet. He's still extremely young in his early 20s. His percentage has improved last year. I think possibly a career high in field goal percentage and free throw percentage.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And 3-pointers made, I think. He made over 3 per game. Now, there were some injury issues. He got off to a really slow start under Stan Van Gundy, who used to coach that team. I don't know if you remember that. But
I think that was during this year where, no, I don't remember that. That's gone. That's been
early on in the season. There was this weird phenomenon where Lonzo Ball was playing off the ball. It was like bring the ball up and pass to someone else, pass to Ingram. Ingram plays iso ball. Lonzo goes to the corner and might jack up a 3, but he's just not as involved as he should be. That shifted a bit during the season, and Lonzo, kind of took off. But I think that put a dent in his numbers. Overall, I just think a 5th round pick, if I can get Lonzo anywhere inside the top 60, I'm just really happy about it. This was not like oh man, I need a point guard. I guess I'll take Lonzo. This was like, nice, I need a point guard. Lonzo's there. I'm very excited to take him.
That sounds good. Yeah, I of all the guys that are headed to Chicago too, it feels like his game can translate perhaps the easiest if there's any kind of adjustment period necessary. Your next one, 6th round pick, was at 65. That's Terry Rozier. He's been going later in drafts this year than I would have expected after just dominating fantasy last season. And I know that there was this whole, can the field goal percent stay where it was? Charlotte has added some people, but he was, by totals, number 17 last year. He's a guy, just from my perspective, I never really target him going into drafts, but he keeps ending up late enough where I'm like, well, I kind of have to at this point, because even in almost like a worst case scenario, he probably beats these marks. So I like this one here. I like Rozier for you. What was the thought process behind pick number 6?
I mean, it's kind of a case where, well, last year, I don't know if you remember this, but Rozier was going I got him around 120 in some drafts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was just a totally forgotten guy, I guess because LaMelo was arriving, et cetera. And he was, as you said, so top 17th in terms of totals, top 40 in terms of averages. I would not take him there, right? Because I guess we have maybe some questions about this Charlotte rotation, possibly just being a little more crowded. I mean, they added James Bouknight in the lottery. They added Kelly Oubre. It's a little more crowded than it was. Gordon Hayward, healthy at the start of the year. I still think, though, they're paying Rozier like a focal point. And so if you can get this guy in the middle of your draft, and his ADP on Yahoo is right around where I took him, 66, it's another case where, okay, so last year he averaged around 20 points, 4 boards, 4 dimes, 3.2 threes. He can take a little hit and you're still all right? If he drops to 18 points per game and he's still getting you those boards and assists and threes or something similar, you're okay. You took him 65th. You've still got a real solid mid-round guy who has some floor, has some ceiling. I like it. It's kind of maybe this is just me being an old man, but I like the combo of floor and ceiling with Lonzo Ball and Terry Rozier.
No, listen, you're preaching to the choir on old man squad stuff. That's sort of my wheelhouse as I suck on this Werther's Original mid podcast. Mike Conley at pick 80. I feel like this is the one you were referring to when you said you had abandoned upside later in the draft. But at the same time, I don't think this is as bad as you might feel like it is. He was in the 50s on a per game basis, and this is a games capped Roto league, fictional thing. So if you get 60 out of 82 games out of him here, it's not a total mess.
No, and I mean, at some point, the discount on these old point guards becomes too much to ignore. I mean, I think it's true with Chris Paul, right? I mean, I do think 33, where you got him, is probably going to prove to be an excellent pick, most likely, unless the wheels just totally fall off in terms of injury. That's a smash. That's a home run pick. Conley does not have that same upside anymore, I don't think. But as you said, he was in the 50s. I got him at 80 just because he's old, basically, and people have fresh memories of him having like a few injuries here and there. I get that. It's the same thing with Kyle Lowry. I will draft these guys if they fall enough. I won't feel awesome about it, but I will do it. I think I only want one of them, though. I think I only want one per team.
Yeah. You can only weather so much. In a head-to-head league, you basically can't even look at these guys because of missed ball games. But one of the things I love about a games cap roto format is you can gather up beaten up old dudes in the 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th rounds, and it's actually really good for your basketball team. I don't know what we need to say about your 8th pick. I almost feel like we should probably just jump over it until we actually get more information on the Wiggins can he play home game status, because I think we had this before that news came out, I think. But I don't remember.
Let's say we did.
Yeah.
Let's say we did. I mean, look, this pick was not made thinking, wow, he might miss their home games this year. This was made, I think, hypothetically, all we can say is if someone's listening to this, a week from now or whatever, or, early October, whenever you're listening, if you've gotten word that Andrew Wiggins is going to be able to play in Warriors home games, I think he's a potential value in fantasy drafts. I don't know that he was particularly falling because of that situation or because like Klay Thompson is going to be back and we're worried about his usage, etc. But this is a guy who, again, notice the theme here, aside from free throw percentage, was quite good across the board last year for the Warriors. And just look at their depth chart. Even with Klay Thompson back, there's an opportunity there. So I think if Wiggins gets the clearance to play in home games, I don't mind him around pick 90 if he's sitting there.
Yeah, and we do have to wait on that big piece of information, but I am inclined to agree with you on if he does end up getting to play in, a maximum of 82 games instead of 41 this year, for sure, because Klay's not coming back until at least late December. Now they're talking maybe early January, and then how long does it take him to get back to his normal level of play after that? So you might get a full half season where Wiggins is the clear-cut only other offensive option on that team besides Steph Curry, who, even if Steph took 30 shots a game, Wiggins is probably going to have to take 18 to 20 in that scenario. But yeah, we do need a little more info.
And he's become a more reliable shot blocker and defensive stats guy, close to 1-1 during his time with the Warriors. By the way, I do love that we put the caveat on it. If we get word that he's not going to miss 41 games, this is a solid consideration.
That small piece of information is hanging in the balance. Well, at least he's not alone. We're waiting on that info on a couple of guys right now, and I don't know. I mean, I guess if you had your draft right now, he's a do not draft player, right?
I agree with that. I would agree with that. Yes,
it's just too much of a risk to take. And there are still some pretty interesting guys on the board in the late 80s, early 90s. Jalen Suggs at 104. Everybody that listens to this show knows I don't even know who rookies are. So tell me about this one.
Well, he's just a guy who I was really impressed by at Gonzaga. I assumed all along he was going to go to the Raptors. I really liked that spot for him with Kyle Lowry leaving Toronto. Now he's in Orlando, and it's a little more confusing there because, you've got Cole Anthony, you've got RJ Hampton, you've got a bevy of young guys in kind of the 1 through 3 spots. So I'm now saying the reasons not to take Jalen Suggs. I think
very convincing.
I think most of my picks from this draft, as I look back on it, are ones that I would make again. I think I kind of go both ways on Jalen Suggs. I do think because he was a number 5 pick for Orlando, I think he's going to have a pretty significant opportunity, I would guess, right away. I think he's got a fairly well-rounded game where, he's a guy who can get you some dimes, some boards, some steals, some threes. He's a very much like you watch him play with Gonzaga. Like he's an impressive player. He's got size, guy who can kind of do a little bit of everything. So I don't know. I mean, probably this is not every time I'm sitting at 104. Am I going to take Jalen Suggs? Probably not. But I did in this case. It's the only rookie. Is this the only rookie I drafted? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is honestly like of all my picks, this and the Wiggins one are probably the ones I'm the least bullish on. I'm not going to sit here and try to like talk you adamantly into taking Jalen Suggs at 104. I think his Yahoo ADP is around 110. That I don't know that you're missing out on an absolute party if you don't take him. But I do think if you're lost, there are much worse guys to take after 100.
All right, tell me about your last three parties here, since it feels like you're more bullish on these guys. And I actually know who these players are, which is nice because, not rookies. But second-year guys.
Let's talk about guys
Yeah, well, second-year guys are mixed in there. I got to learn them by the second go-around.
Sure.
I actually have Chuma Okeke on a keeper team, so I'm sort of with you on that one, and he feels like a pretty big part of what Orlando wants to do, and I love the way he looked before. I believe he twisted an ankle and missed the last 10 days of last season, and I wonder if folks forgot because of forgot about him because of that, because he looked really good for about. It wasn't long. It's like a week, maybe 2 weeks right before that. So it wasn't like a massive sample size, but it was this kind of, here, you go get it. And he had these ferocious dunks, and he was stretching the floor, and his steals were outstanding. Sorry, I sort of did this out of order, but the three names after Suggs were Malik Beasley, Isaac Okoro, and Chuma Okeke. And I'm clumping them together because they're kind of this post-100, you go get your guy section of the draft. You're not really worried about the order you're taking them so much anymore. Yeah, you can think well, do I think any of these guys get back to me? But you really just want to go and snatch the one that you want the most, and then the next time around, you snatch the one you want the second most, and so on and so forth. So talk to me about Malik Beasley, Isaac Okoro, and Chuma Okeke. Yes, I'm doing a three-burger all at the same time here.
Okay. Well, as for Beasley, I think that in all the drafts I've been doing recently, he's just kind of sitting there. I mean, this is a guy who last year averaged almost 20 points per game, 3.5 3-pointers, was a real focal point for Minnesota. I know that, he, I guess, arguably could be the fourth option heading into the season behind D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, and Karl-Anthony Towns in some order. But again, I mean, this is a guy, just a lot of points and threes late in your draft. Another look at the depth chart situation. I mean, it's like Jalen Noel there with him, competing at the 2. I think Beasley is going to get plenty of opportunities and just, I mean, it's not that exciting, but he's just a guy I know. I will say in the early drafts I've been doing, you get after 100 and I'm still figuring out what I want to do, Dan. You know what I mean? It's like, but Beasley is a name I know. He was good last year, other than the suspension and the injury. And yeah, a lot of points and threes, I think, for him. Do you want me to go on to the next guys real quick?
Sure, yeah. Keep rumbling. I love it.
Okoro got a chance to play a ton as a rookie. He had his moments. I'm not sure what to make of this one, though I'll also say the path to this happening is he played a lot as a rookie. He's a young guy. He's got some potential to be kind of a nice steals specialist. And if the points improve a bit, he's a pretty interesting late round guy who should play a ton for Cleveland this year. Okeke, if it wasn't for Jonathan Isaac's impending return, I think would be going a lot earlier. But I mean, Isaac is a big question mark in terms of health. Okeke is a guy they took pretty early in the draft a couple of years ago when he was injured. And they seem to like him. As you said, he's a guy who has a path to being like a steals guy. I guess late in the draft, I also don't mind taking a swing at someone who, if all breaks right, he can help me in a hard category like steals. So for Okoro and Okeke, I would say that's true. I also might just drop these guys if we're playing out this league. And there's lots of there's many other guys I like after 100, maybe even have become even more intrigued by since we did this draft.
Ooh, well it's like you knew I needed a segue into the next topic on this. By the way, again, talking to Matt Stroup at NBC Sports Edge. Didn't screw it up twice on the same podcast. I know. It's
well done.
I know. This day's really turning into a winner right before your very eyes. So who would you then target if not these guys? Who are kind of the Stroup late targets?
I'm going to give you some names that I really like. I got to find where this one guy went. Where was that? Oh, crikey.
Ooh.
Okay. In no particular order or potentially in order. Sadiq Bey, 106, I really like. Very promising closing stretch for him for the Pistons. I think averaged around 16 points per game, better than three-pointers a game the last 20-plus games. I like where's this dude? TJ McConnell at 112. I love as you took him. Well done.
I did.
As like a steals assist specialist. I think led all point guards in the NBA in steals last year, Dan.
I believe you're correct, and I think he
fact check me on
played.
that.
Didn't he play in like 95% of their games too? Something really high.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's actually maybe better for head-to-head than Roto, but pretty good either way.
Mo Bamba, 125.
Oh, I'm so
absolutely
on board with that one.
I love Mo Bamba. I will not be waiting till 125 based on what I've seen recently in some drafts. I think I will take ahead of Jalen Suggs. If I'm at 104 and Bamba's still there, I'm taking him instead of Jalen Suggs. So that's one.
Yeah, and I just talked
switch.
to Hanshu right before talking to you. Actually, I did these pod hits back to back, and he's the guy who got Bamba, and we were sort of. I gave him his pat on the back, and I'll let him know you did too.
Well, we gave him Mo Bamba, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. That was embarrassing. Daniel Gafford. There's a recent word that he projects as the starting center for the Wizards. I absolutely love this guy. If you watched him play at all down the stretch last year, he is an absolute dynamo, a guy who can get like 12 and 8 in about 12 minutes with 2 blocks, and then Scott Brooks would pull him out of the game inexplicably. But the point is, Daniel Gafford is a monster in waiting. His per 36-minute numbers are off the charts. I think per 36 minutes with the Wizards, he averaged something like 20 points, 11 rebounds, 3.5 blocks. Just potential monster if he can get like 25 minutes a game. So I love him. I don't even think he got taken in this one. Dan, did he?
He must have. He must have gone somewhere. Let me do a
he
search.
Did. Oh, he most certainly did. I was looking too far down.
Yeah, there he is.
He went,
right around Suggs, actually. Right before you there, I think.
Oh, boy. That hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts. That's
almost
bad.
fell
That's
to
poor.
you.
Bad job. Oh, yeah. Here he was gone. Okay, good. I feel better.
Yeah.
And then there's one more, Dan, that I want to mention. Oh, I've become intrigued by, you don't know who this guy is.
It's a rookie. I know it's coming.
I've become intrigued by a young man who goes by the name of Josh Giddey. He is I believe, 18-year-old rookie point guard drafted 6th overall by the Oklahoma City Thunder. He is a large point guard. I think he's about 6'9", played in the same league in Australia where we saw LaMelo Ball cut his teeth before he came to the NBA. And I don't know, I think Giddey probably is going to be a disaster in percentages, but potentially a really sneaky source of assists and steals, etc. late in your draft.
I love it. That was delicious, man. That was 5 of those. I didn't expect that many.
I mean, I could probably keep going, but I'm talking myself out.
Well, this is excellent stuff. I will now put a bow on this delightful appearance. Thank you so much once again, the marvelous Matt Stroup. And for the 3rd time, Dan will do it without screwing it up at NBC Sports Edge.
Man, you promised me you're going to mess that up, and you didn't do it once.
I didn't mess it up. Not one time yet. Awesome stuff, man. Can I bug you again in the next couple of weeks?
Absolutely. Yeah, you know where to find me.
The fantastic Matt Stroup, thank you once again, my man. We will talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan.
I gotta say, there's enough sort of like back scratching that goes on in the moment, but even post-interview, I went back and I listened back to parts of these before I edit them in, just to make sure I say things as I'm editing them, to make sure like the pieces around it all fit together. Dude, Stroup is good at this. He is good at this. Listen, go back if you need to and listen to what that man was saying throughout the podcast. Not only, he's funny, which is great. Someone who's like a professional broadcaster makes my life easier. But just from a fantasy analysis standpoint, there are not many sharper minds in the industry than that dude. I don't throw that around lightly. A lot of fun talking to Matt. Big thank you again. NBC Sports Edge. See, I got the name right a 4th time on the same show. Wanted to very quickly make mention of some stuff going on in the NBA landscape. The no updates on the Karis LeVert front. I know we were going to talk a little bit about that on yesterday's show, and we kind of went with all right, we'll just play it by ear a little bit. Also, there was some slight additional info on Bradley Beal, who has sort of come out to say he's not necessarily definitely not going to get vaccinated, which I think is another reason why we were sort of slow playing our hand on that one as well, to say, I don't know that you have to move him down in your rankings all that much. Someone was commenting on Twitter, and this is actually fairly apt, that he's basically stuck around in Washington for the money at this point, which, by the way, is 100% fine. make your money. These guys have like a dozen years to make the money they're going to have for their entire lives. And admittedly, for some of them, the superstars, that is a ton. But if you want to make money and you don't like need to win a championship immediately, frickin' do it. That's fine. So to think that, there's a chance he might end up having to miss games in whatever arena, or if anything ever happens at their home arena, I don't think... ultimately, I think he probably finds a way. And then there's also the chance that he just doesn't get sick this year. So dissimilar from the Wiggins and Kyrie stuff, because right now they're staring down the barrel of a half season where a guy like Bradley Beal is not. I don't know how I managed to kind of bury the lead today, but in addition to the Brewski 150 coming out today, which it did, and I had to tell you that at the beginning. Sorry, I know you guys hate beginning of show promos, but that was kind of important. Here's an end of show promo. Projections are out today, and those are available for basically all Hoopball subscribers, with the very rare exception of like someone who only has the DFS plan, or there's a bundle that only has DFS and betting. But anything in our catalog at Hoopball that contains the full season fantasy subscription just got the annual projections today. So those are over. If you go to hoop-ball.com, click on the premium tab at the top and choose launch premium. That's very important. Don't click on the thing. Don't click on the subscription yet. You want to click on launch first. That'll bring up the choice of different landing pages. And then projections are right in there. I think it might even be on the homepage for now as well. So that's really cool. And you can adapt that to your specific league type in a way that is sort of reminiscent of our discussion on Yahoo rankings. They have the projections at Yahoo, and then they just put them in an order, but that doesn't make any sense. It's why the Brewski 150 is as strong as it is because Aaron breaks it down into an 8-cat and a 9-cat board. Yahoo doesn't do that. I don't know why. I don't know why they don't adjust for whatever categories you're working with, but this is where you can go. If you're in a points league, for instance, you can adjust. You can just set it up in Excel spreadsheet at home, plug in a player with how many points each thing is worth, and it'll pop out a number for you. It's pretty easy. You can build one on your own in probably 10 minutes in Excel. So the Hoopball projections, they're out there for the Fantasy Pass folks, Hoopball 360 folks, the All Fantasy Bundle, the Old School Bundle, Hoopball 3. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, it's in a lot of different spots where the B150 right now, that's for Hoopball 360 members only today. In 5 days, Old School Bundle buyers will get B150 access, and 10 days from today, it goes into the Fantasy Pass. 15 days from today, the Draft Guide a la carte buyers, they get it just 5 days before the season starts. It's why we've tried so hard to sort of massage all of you guys into the Fantasy Pass for full season stuff. That's really the catch-all, and it's just $6 a month. And that's what's going down. Big thank you once again to our buddy Matt Stroup for hopping on. Tomorrow, we are... I don't even know what order everything's going to be happening on the show right now. We're going to be talking to Matt Lawson at some point. That might be tomorrow's show. That might also be Friday's show. We're going to be talking to Brewski tomorrow. We're going to be talking to Matt Smith at some point tomorrow. Brandon Marcus, I think we'll be talking to on Friday, who wasn't brewing either. Those guys weren't in the mock draft, but they got really important things to talk about. Adam Stock, Mike Catron over the weekend, Jonas Nader, Alex Rickling, Josh Lloyd, Dr. A, Mike Barner, Greg Ehrenberg. All of these guys are coming up on the podcast in the next 2 weeks or so, and it's why I've talked about how I think I'm probably going to add a 6th show a week here in the short term, because there's just too many things to do between now and when the season starts, and the choices are, make a show like today and do another 24 picks from the mock draft and just make it like an hour and 15-minute pod, which I don't want to do. I like to keep this show in the 45 to 55-minute range during the season and probably about 35 to 50-minute range during the offseason. I don't want to go super long. You guys want to try to squeeze this thing in, get your fantasy info, and not have to use up the entire afternoon. To me, it makes more sense to just do another one on a weekend. Because you guys are probably going to be sitting somewhere on a Saturday or a Sunday thinking, man, I want to be thinking about fantasy right now. And I'm going to hopefully give you that opportunity. So stay tuned. Special month, because that'll be October. That'll be October, starting on Friday. It's October. So Special for October 2021. We'll add an extra show to the mix. I love it. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Please do rate and review the pod and subscribe. That's the most important thing you can do. We want you guys downloading old episodes and listening to everything we've got going on because, damn it, there's good stuff in them. Go back and listen to yesterday's show with Zach Hanshu. That was a lot of fun also. The good stuff keeps coming. I'm Dan Vespers. For Fantasy NBA Today, have a lovely Wednesday. We'll talk at you tomorrow. So long, everybody.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.